Buying and selling at the same time can be a really stressful situation, but I'm here to give you some options today on how to navigate that a little easier. Hi, I'm Stacy Olson with the Valentini team of William Rivers Real Estate, and on my channel, I'll tell you everything you need to know about living on the Connecticut coastline. So you finally decided you need to sell. Whatever your reason is, everyone's is different, but you need to sell and buy at the same time. So when you're a first-time home buyer, buying is actually stressful, but a little less stressful because you don't have something to sell. You can focus completely on the buying process. But what happens when you need to sell and buy? The timelines are usually very short and it's ultra stressful. So the first and probably least stressful option, but most likely the most unpopular one, is to hang on to your current home. I'm not saying this is a permanent solution, but short term it might work for you. So you should talk to your lender because you'd be surprised if they have a look at all of your assets, savings, income. You might be able to purchase your future home and then still hang on to your current one. That way you can sell your current home whenever you want. You don't have to worry about synchronizing closing dates and move-in dates and all of that fun stuff. You can just keep your current home and move when you're ready. Another option is to focus solely on selling your current home, but have your next short-term living situation figured out. So what can that be? That can be moving in with family. I'm sure that's a favorite one for some people. Or a short-term residence. Maybe it's a month-to-month rental in your town. Or it could be one of those long-term residents of one of those chain hotels that we know of. But if you have like specific needs, you need to consider that. If you have children in the current school district and you're not moving out of district, you want to keep them in there, right? So you're going to look locally at some options. But again, this can help relieve the stress because you can focus on selling your current home and then renting for the next couple months until you find the home you want to buy without having the added stress of being homeless. One option that has become increasingly popular in today's seller's market is what's called the rent back. So what is that? That is when you sell your current home and the buyer allows you to rent back your home for a certain amount of time. Typically, it's 1 to 2 months, and this option is becoming very popular. It is risky sometimes, right? Because you have a set amount of time. So let's say it's 60 days. You need to be out of your house in 60 days and have another house already purchased because they become your landlords essentially. You sign a new contract with them, like a lease, saying you'll be there for 30 or 60 days. You negotiate the rent amount that you're willing to pay, and then you have to be out of there. Because technically, if you're not, they can evict you. It's probably not going to get to that situation, but it could happen. So this is a viable option for people these days. I have known several people that have chosen to do this because the inventory was so low, they wanted to sell their house to get top dollar, but they didn't have anywhere to go. So it is a good option for some people. Another option would be to put a contingency on your listing. So when you decide to sell your home, you put it in the listing explicitly that it is contingent on the seller finding suitable housing. And you might think, who would agree to that? But people are desperate today. The inventory is extremely low. So they might go look at your house, fall in love with it, and be willing to deal with the fact that they're going to wait for you to find another home to move into. I mean, that could be 2, 3, 4 months. Who knows? But in today's market, people might be willing to be flexible about things like that because they love your home, they want to buy it, and if they don't have to move by a certain time, they may be willing to stick it out with you until you find your next home. One thing that people have used in the past is something called a Hubbard clause. It's not being used as much now because it's a seller's market, but what used to happen was that you would include this Hubbard clause in your offer, and it's a contingency that states you need to sell your current home in order to buy your new one. And that worked several years ago when buyers had more of the power. But currently, sellers have the power, and they don't want to hear that you need to sell your home in order to buy theirs, because they can just move on to the next offer. Inventory is so low and people are in need of homes, they don't need to wait for you to sell your home an extra couple months. They'll just move on. But markets do change. So in the future, that could be an option for you, where you basically tell them, hey, I want to buy your home, but you have to wait for me to sell mine. Or you could just do it the old-fashioned way. Put your house on the market, and in today's market, have an offer in about 3 days, and then realize, oh, we have nowhere to go. So you're running around with your agent trying to find the house that you want to buy. And then you might be settling, which is terrible. And then you're moving again in a couple years because you realize the house you bought wasn't right for you. Nobody wants that. So think about all these other options that I talked about earlier, because I think one of them might be able to fit your situation. I hope I was able to give you some tips on how to relieve the stress of buying and selling at the same time. And if you are thinking about moving, have you ever thought about the Connecticut shoreline? Did you know it's actually affordable? Check out this video to see how.